Welcome everybody to another episode of the GovAssociation podcast, where we subtitle it "Win Government Contract" because that's what this podcast is all about, and it's about helping businesses win government contracts. And so, if you're joining us live, welcome to the podcast. If you are watching this on replay, thanks for joining us as well, even though you're on replay. And we have entrepreneur Vicky Vang here, and so we've been working together to help her business get to government contracts. It's been we submitted one proposal, which it was a collective between the two organizations. It wasn't meant to be that, but it just so happens where Vicky found a project that was a good match for what we did, and so we submit the proposal together, and we should know any day now whether we are the recipient of the opportunity. So it's good stuff, Vicky. I'm really excited about that. But why don't we take a few seconds and Vicky, introduce yourself and your business, and then we'll dive into today's episode.
Hi, my name is Vicky Vang. I'm the founder of Alpha Professional Services. We are a small business consulting firm located in Minnesota. And my journey with GCA has been wonderful. Being able to team up with you guys with this bid. And yes, I am excited about what's going to happen next. And on top of that, I've been actually networking with individuals, and hopefully we'll be able to team up and do more bidding and opportunities with other individuals.
Absolutely. So we've been working on getting Vicky and her company procurement ready. Now, if you're joining us and you don't know what procurement ready, go and watch some of the older episodes, because part of being successful in the government market is you have to speak the language, you have to understand the culture, and you have to present your business in a manner that makes you don't look risky to a government agency. If you look risky, they're not going to entrust you with a contract award, specifically if you're interested in a sole source. So with that, we got some exciting content to cover today. So we're going to be talking about. Last week we talked about what are the different 5 layers of certifications that you must consider as a small business, and then if you don't qualify for any small business certification, what should you do? So we covered that in the last week's episode. This week we're going to be talking about qualifications for the small business certifications. So just a quick reminder, there's federal certifications for small businesses, there's state, there's counties, there's cities, and there's commercial. Those are the 5 layers of small business certifications. And today we're going to dive in. We're going to talk about qualification. So Vicky, you've submitted a few small business certifications. Tell me a little bit about your experiences with that, and what are some challenges or obstacles that you've seen. And then after you share a little bit about that, I'll see if there's some ways to overcome those things. And we're going to go into the specific qualifications for all of our audience here so they can prepare their business to go after certifications.
The challenges that I've seen, we'll start off with that, is getting your financial in order if you're going for bigger, or I should say federal certifications. The state is not as critical, but I still think that the financial part of it was my biggest takeaway from all of this. Most of the time, when you have your business license and everything in place, with some of your background, it's very, very helpful to do the certification statewide, and then find out, like Abe said, the qualifications that they're requiring to get your certifications for state and county.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So your one of your concern is you were working on getting your certification package together, and your business didn't have all your financial statements. So
That is
when
correct.
yes, so what the government's going to ask for is 3 years of financial records. They're asking for your cash flow statement, they're going to ask you for your what's called income statement, or your profit loss is the same thing as the income statement. And then they're going to ask you for your balance sheet. So those are the typical three type of financial statements that they want. And if you're new, especially if you just started your business this year, or maybe you've been around for 3, 4, 5 years, but you haven't been operational, you just had the business, but you've never really worked the business. So even though you have 5 years of company history, but you don't have 5 years of financial history, what should you do to overcome that? So let's address that a little bit. First, you can have a CPA letter saying that although you started in 2018 or whatever time it is, that the business was not operational. You don't want to use the word operation. The business was not uh, generating revenue, and as such, you did not have any financial statements. So that's one way to do it, is have a CPA do a letter of explanation. Or two, you can take a minimalist approach. In fact, let me share with one of the companies. I'm going to share everybody here an example of a company that I worked with and what we did to help her overcome her financial lack of financial documents. So let me pull up this document, and then I'm going to share it with everybody. And so it's pulling up. Give me 1 second for it to pull up here, and then I need to rotate it because it is so let me come back and share my screen. If you're watching with us here, thanks for joining us. We give out different type of bonuses along the way, and so if you're watching, if you have any challenges with some of the things that we're talking about, feel free to reach out to us. We'll help you overcome these challenges as well. There's two parts to the podcast here. The first part is we're actually addressing Vicky's company. But along this journey here, if you have questions or if you have challenges for your own business, we're also here doing the podcast for you to ask questions. You just need to put it in the chat area. And if it's relevant in the moment, I will answer the question. If it's not relevant in the moment, I will address it later on. Our producer will make sure that we get a chance to address your questions during the podcast as well. If you're watching this on replay, you can always go to the comments area and ask your questions there. We check almost every single questions that people ask in our social communities and try to address it as much as we can as well. So let's go into what we did for this company. So if you look at this here, right, it's very simple. Guess what? Cash flow statement, negative income, right? And then everything else is just 0, 0, 0, 0, right? And then she signed it. And then our balance sheet, she's got $3,000 worth of inventory and asset. And then in terms of income statement, $2,500 worth of sales. The company is carrying a loss at this time here. And so if you look at this here, it gives you a little bit perspective in terms of, and because this is your true financial statement. So it doesn't matter what it is. You just need to have something. If you are interested in, in terms of this document itself, there's many, many resources that you can pull it from. All you have to do is go to the most amazing university tool out there. It's called Google, right? And so you just put in here financial statement samples. And there are I would recommend using the Excel, but there's a whole bunch of samples out there. And now if for any reason you can't find any, reach out to us. We do have some sample as well, but Google is probably going to be your best friend. There's lots of financial document samples out there. So there is a free resource that is very robust. And let me pull it up. I have it. In fact, I think it's in our Gov Fast Track. So we've been using Gov Fast Track to track all of our work with Vicky. And let me come in here, financial statement. Let me see if I can find it in here. Current sheet. Financial statements for business plans. Yes, financial statement templates. So we have different options in here. So I'm going to pull up this one, and I will put it in the chat for some of you so that if you want access to this here, as being part of our audience here, you get access to all the bonuses that we talked about here. So this one's put out by SCORE. SCORE is a nonprofit organization supported by the SBA as well as taxpayer money. So if you come in here, they have some great templates in here. And if you come, they have the business model canvas, but the financial templates are down here. So if you click on the financial projection templates, you can download all the different resources that they have here to help you get started as well. So that's that. There you have it. Some options in terms of how to do it. But for some of you, especially if you're brand new and you have no financial statements, then what you want to do is use what's called a DLOE, a detailed letter of explanation, DLOE, and just explain that you're a new business and you have no financial statements. For example, if you started February 2024 and we're in June. Oh, by the way, today is Juneteenth, and so happy Juneteenth to everybody. Some of you, thanks for joining us. I know you took the day off just so that you can hang out with us on this podcast here. So appreciate you taking the day off to come hang out with us. Some of you didn't have to work, so that's why you're here with us. So, but if you need tools and resources, we've got them available. So let's dive in, and we're going to go and talk about qualifications for small business certifications. And I'm going to come in here. We have in fact, let me go to here specific. I'm going to pull up so what we did was I created a tracking sheet in terms of all the different certifications out there. And this is it right here. So I'm going to talk about some deal breakers, and then we're going to talk about things that may not apply to every single company. So I'm going to start by talking about the potential deal breakers. And if some of these things are true, then it may be a hindrance for you for some of the certification, not all of the certification. This is especially true for the 8A certification. And then, Vicky, as we talk through this here, if you have concerns about something that you can share in a public format like this here, we could talk about it. If it's something that's very specific and maybe sensitive, then we could talk offline. And then if you're watching and as you're learning about these qualifications for small businesses, feel free to put some questions in the chat as well. So first one, if you have any back taxes, you will not be able to get small business certifications. If you do have back taxes, then what you need to do is you need to set up a payment plan. So that's how you overcome challenges of owing back taxes. And that's normal, right? Because sometimes some years you pay less and you owe $4,000 or $5,000, and some of you might own $20,000, $30,000 of back taxes. That doesn't mean you cannot get your small business certification. It just means you need to have a payment plan. And I was working with a lady trying to get her 8A certification ready, and she has like $7,000, $8,000 of back taxes, and we showed that she was paying on it and that there was a payment plan, and we're able to move forward with her certifications. So that's the first. If you have this here and if you have back taxes, make sure you have a payment plan. Second item is if you have a felony. For most certifications, they will not ask you to see if you have a felony background or not. But for the 8A program, they will ask you if you have a felony. So if this is true, there are certain types of felonies that is permissible. The main thing they're looking for is felony that's related to fraud or certain type of things that. Um, so there is actually some specific exemptions in terms of felony. So if you have that, reach out to me. This may be a sensitive conversation we need to have offline. So if you say, hey, you know what, I made some mistakes in my past. I've learned. I pay my due to society. Now, I want to grow my company. Want to get into the certification program and so forth. Reach out to us. Be more than happy to help you overcome whether it's this or any other obstacles that you have. If your revenue is declining, that does not mean that you cannot get into the 8A program, but it does mean that it's a potential that you may not be able to get into the 8A program. One of the qualifying requirement for the 8A program is this here. You must have the propensity for success while you're in the 8A program. And so if your revenue is declining, we need to be able to explain that why your revenue is declining. Now, if your revenue is steady or growing a little bit, it's fine. For example, I work with a company. She started as a sole proprietor. Her first year in business was $10,000. Her second year was like $17,000. And then her third year was $28,000 in revenue. So even though it's not a lot of revenue, her sole proprietor year we counted that. Her official LLC second year, we counted that, and we count her third year, which is 28,000. So we show that she had a increasing revenue stream, and even with very low revenue, she was able to get into the 8A program. It's not the size of the revenue that they're looking at. It's there was a gentleman. He had a restaurant business that also does catering and some other things, and his revenue has been declining, and he applied for the program. This is before COVID. If it was COVID, he could explain, hey, COVID impacted my business, but his revenue was declining, and he applied to be in the 8A program. They declined him because they said that your revenue has been declining for the last 3 years, and we are concerned that your business is not going to survive in the government market. He had a few other minor things too, but if it was just that, we could have further challenged the scenario. And so because he had a few other challenges too, he just decided, let me pause and let me fix my situation first. So declining revenue may be an issue for your business going to the 8A program. Unpaid debt, if you have certain debts that's in collection, that can become a problem. If you're not a U.S. citizen, you cannot get into the 8A program or the EDWSB program. The WSB, you do not need to be a citizen. All the other certification, DBE, MBE, WBE, all of those, you do not need to be a citizen. But specifically for the 8A program, you need to be a U.S. citizen. If you're debarred from doing work in the government market, if your company is on EPLS, EPLS stands for Excluded Party Listing System. So if you're in EPLS, and if you're new to the government market, you're not going to be on EPLS. It's typically some companies have been in the government market for a few years, and they had some issues, and they did not resolve their issues, and then they get put on EPLS. If you're on EPLS, you have to go cure those problems, or you won't be able to get to the 8A program or any federal certification program. If you're on EPLS, you will not be able to get any certification. So keep that in mind. This one is a little tricky. If more than 70% of your revenue comes from one source, the government, through the 8A program, they will not allow you into the 8A program. So let's assume you have two clients. You have two customers. You're a new company, you have two customers. One customer, let's assume your revenue for the year was $100,000. One of your customer, you're invoicing them $80,000 for the year, and they paid you $80,000. Another company paid you $20,000. Even though you had good revenue, but because more than 70% of your revenue came from one client, that is a most likely you will not be able to get into the 8A program. So this is a major obstacle for many of you. The way you overcome this here is you just add a few more clients and you'll be okay. So if you have 3 or 4 clients, the mix is going to change from one leaning heavily with one. The concern that the government or the SBA have is that if you lose that one client, that if your revenue is 80,000 is 100,000 and 80,000 is from one client, that one client, there's 2 main reasons SBA is concerned about. One is that one client can assert control over your business. Therefore, they can actually control your 8A company. And the SBA does not want anybody else except for the person who they're qualifying to be as the owner of the 8A company to control the company. So they don't want outside control. And if 80% of your revenue or 70% of your revenue is coming from one source, there can be exertion of control from somebody else. So that's the number one main concern. The second is if that company or that one customer leaves you, you're dead in the water and you will not succeed in the 8A program. So all of this here is true for 8A. Some of this here is true for other certifications. For DBE, MBE, WBE, WSB, most of this here is not true. So let's talk about the next one. If you're a new company, you have to be 2 years in business for the 8A program. You will not get into the 8A program if you're new and you don't have 2 years, 2 year since the date of incorporation. So that's really how they measure the 2 years. Now, if you don't have to have revenue for 2 years, that's okay. Or if you have been around for a little bit, and for example, let's assume that you have been you've been managing a janitorial company as a manager for the last 20 years, and you decided you're going to start your own janitorial company. Well, in that situation, even though you just started your new janitorial company because you have 20 years experience in janitorial services, you started your company, as long as you show a little bit of revenue, there can be an exemption to the 2-year rule. It's called the 2-year waiver. Let's continue. And because of we have a lot of other qualification to talk through, if you have further questions about this here, shoot us email. We'll be more than happy to go into more details. If you have any active judgments, lawsuits, or bankruptcy, it's okay to have bankruptcies, but if it's active, then you cannot get into the 8A program or any active judgments or lawsuits. Some of you borrow money from the government during the using EIDL grant and using the PPP loans. If you have not, if that loan is not in good standing, that would be part of some of the issues that you will have. So if you have any default on an SBA guarantee loan, some of you may have gotten an SBA guarantee loan for a business loan at some point in the past. If you were default of that, then you either have to cure that or you have to get on a payment plan. Or if it's like 3 years ago, 5 years ago, and it was written off as a loss by the bank, in that situation, because you defaulted on the SBA loan, you cannot get into the 8A program. So this is a deal breaker in some situation for some of you that do have this situation. Now, if you do have this here and you still want to get 8A certified, reach out to us. There's a few ways of how we can help you restructure your company to be able to get your 8A. Your net worth has to be under $850,000. Now, the way they determine net worth is this here. They don't count the value of your business. They do not count the value of your primary residence, which is your home. And they do not count any retirement funds that you have. Anything that is in long-term 401k, IRAs, anything that's long-term, they don't count that as part of your net worth. So for many people I know, they say, hey, Abe, I super qualify because I'm far from 850,000 in terms of net worth. For some of you, if your net worth is higher than this, that does not mean that you cannot get into the 8A program. That means that we need to restructure your net worth. And I'll give you the easy answer to how to restructure. We have to set up a trust to where the beneficiary are your kids. And then you're still the trustee, so you still manage the money, you still handle them. You can use the money to do different things, pay different things, however you want to manage it. It's up to you as a trustee, but the beneficiary of the trust are your kids. So in essence, you've taken it out of your name. You have access to it, to use it, to do whatever you want with it, but technically you're no longer the beneficiary. So that's one strategy of how you shelter your assets and not be included in the net worth here. Talk to us if you have a net worth issue. Your AGI has to be under $400,000. Your adjusted gross income, that's what this is. Um, so your adjusted gross income must be under 400,000. And then your total asset, this is everything you own: your car, your jewelry, your home, your retirement funds, your real estate investment property, your primary residence, the value of your business. Everything you own has to be worth less than $6.5 million. So these are some potential, if this is true for your situation, you may not be able to get to the AIDA program. Reach out to us. We'll look at your situation specifically. So now, Vicky, let me ask you this here. As it relates to these items here, are there any concerns here that you and I need to address?
No.
Okay, that's good. Let's take a few quick seconds to answer some questions here. Let's see here if there's any questions. How do I determine, Ambika asks, how do I determine if my business can obtain an 8A certification? We've covered a few of the qualification, Ambika, but there's probably more. And then I'm going to go over some more here. And if after this here you still have questions, reach out to us. I'll be more than happy to, set up, 20, 30 minutes time to meet with you and talk about your situation. So now I'm going to go through the checklist of different documents you will need for your certifications. First, you need your certificate of incorporation. If you are a S Corp or C Corp, it's called the certificate of incorporation. And if you're like, I can't find it, well, maybe because you're LLC. So if you're LLC, it's called the certificate of organization. So that's an LLC. Some states may not issue certificate of incorporation or certificate of organization. Some states will issue what's called a good standing or a existence document, uh, or a formation document. So sometimes they call it a business in good standing. Sometimes they call it a business proof of existence or a business formation document. But most of the time it's called certificate of organization or certificate of incorporation. If you're not sure where to get this here, let me just quickly show you. Just type in SOS and Vicky, Minnesota. So I'm going to come in here and, oops, wrong one. Should be one of the very first one here. Business, yeah, should be this. Oh, right here. Search business filing. Yeah, right here. So search business filing, right? So you can come in here and you just kind of, most of them will have a little place where you can go search the company, and within that there is a document. So Alpha, is it Alpha Pro one word or professional?
Alpha Professional, it's 2 words, services.
Okay, so let's just go with that.
LLC.
Professional
Oh, there it
services.
is.
Yep. And then if you go to details, and then you see this there, it says order your certificate. You can order your certificate. Or you can just print it. Or this is printing the document. So you're in good standing here. So this is really, you have to, for them, you have to order. Now in the state of Georgia, so it's $15. In Georgia, let me show you Georgia. And just put SOS, your state. SOS stands for Secretary of State, just in case you're wondering. And so I can come in here, I can do a search in here. I'm going to search one of my old company, Uvani. This I used to have a apparel clothing brand way back in the day. So, but it's been a while. So I can come in here. In the state of Georgia, if you can actually go to the filing history, and then all your documents are in here. So if you come in here, your business formation document is here. And then certificate of incorporation is right here. So that's how you get this document here. Let's continue. If you hire a consultant to help you with your 8A certifications, typically there is a form that you have to fill out. All other certifications, they don't have a form, only for 8A that I am aware of. Articles of incorporation, articles of organization. Some of you, that is through this here. If you created it, if you don't, then you can actually just order it. And I'm gonna show you how to easily get your bylaws, your operating agreement, and so forth in a second here. So the next item is bylaws. Bylaws is for S Corp or C Corp. If you're LLC and you're taking the tax as a S Corp, you're still LLC. That doesn't mean that you're the S Corp tax selection is not necessarily makes you to where you have to have a bylaws. If you're LLC, you have what's called operating agreement. And some people call it a member agreement, but it's really an operating agreement. Most LLC, you use an operating agreement. If you are a partnership, then you have a partnership agreement. Most of you will be LLCs, and in that situation, you have an operating agreement. You need a buy-sell agreement. A buy-sell agreement is not required. The operating agreement, the bylaws are required for most certifications. The buy-sell agreement is not required, but if you do have one, you do need to submit it. And what a buy-sell agreement is this here. Think of it as your business will. Your business will says this here. Your buy-sell agreement says that should something happen to me as the business owner, what happens to my shares? If you have a partner, does it go to your partner? Does it go to your family? Does it go to your next of kin? What rights are tied to the buy-sell agreement? Who has first rights to it if somebody decides to sell the shares? Even though there may not be a loss of life, it could just be where somebody says, I'm retiring, or I don't want my shares anymore, and I want to move on. The buy-sell agreement is the business will. It tells you what happens to the shares and the shareholders and that side of it. Now, most small business, you're the only owner, so most of you won't have a buy-sell agreement. But if you're a partnership or if you have a multiple members in LLC, you do want to set that up. So that's a good document to have if you have multiple partners. Let's talk about stocks. And I used the term shares earlier. In a S Corp, C Corp, they call it shareholders. In a LLC, they call it, they don't call it shares, they call it units. So C Corp, sometimes they call it a stock certificate, or they call it the shareholders certificate. In a LLC, it's units, or the member unit certificates. So that's what that is. If you're looking for a copy and you don't say, "Hey, I never got one," I'm gonna give you the easiest way to do it. It's called corporatekits.com. I'll put it in the chat down here so that some of you, if you haven't ordered your kit yet, this is how you do it. So go get your corporate kit down there. If you come here, you can pay an attorney a lot of money for this here, or you can come and order it for 39 bucks. Now, I recommend more than the 39 because 39 you just get the paper. So if you order the binder also, and then I also recommend ordering your seals, your corporate seals. So your seal is this here, right? It is the embossing metal seal here. I also recommend the metal seal because it's not color or ink. It embosses it and it raised the paper. So this is good for certain official documents. But nowadays we're more digitally inclined to send documents. So what you really want is you want to come in here and you want to order what's called a stamp. Where is the stamp? Stamp. Oh, I'm up here. So you want to order the stamp. And the stamp is going to take your corporate seal and it's going to allow you to ink it onto documents and stuff like that. So I have the round seal. I like the round version better than the kind of like the rectangular version here. And in fact, let me show you what that looks like. We do have it on a document that for our graduation, some of the things that we do, we use that as a official part of the documents. So let me pull this up here. So it's going to look like this here. It's going to be a seal, and then it's going to look nice. What I did in this situation was I took the seal and I removed the background. I put it on white paper, and then I removed the background, and then I turn it into a digital image, so I can use my seal digitally in this manner here. So it looks kind of official. So I don't have to stamp every single certificate that we work on. So order your corporate kit and get that going. Stock ledger, that's in your corporate kit also. When you order your corporate kit here, it's included in here. Behind all this paperwork is your stock certificate and your stock ledger. Transmutation agreement, if that, for most of you, that's not necessary. Bank account signature card, you do need that to prove that you have authority to open your bank account and to manage your bank account. So you need just go back to the bank. Every single one of you, your business account has a signature card. Just go back to the bank. You just say, hey, for, the SBA requires my bank signature card and I want a copy of it. Most of the time they want you to go inside the bank to get this done. I don't think if you call by phone, they're going to do it. So you have to go inside the branch to get that done. If you have a joint venture, mentor protege, you need those documents. You will need business license because that proves that you're operational. And so if you're in a county or a city, you need to go get your business license. Typically, there's a small fee anywhere from $70 to $150 to maintain your business license for the year. Some industry requires professional licenses like real estate agent, attorney, accountants. If you're a lead, LEED, lead professional, black belt, green belt, and as it relates to lean manufacturing, so different type. And then your business tax return, they say 5 years, but typically 3 years is good enough for business tax returns. Financial statements, we talked about that earlier, typically 3 years. Sometimes they want your year-to-date financial, specifically the 8A program. They will ask for your YTD financial statements. So, for example, right now we're in June, and July is here, and the government wants to, the SBA wants year-to-date financial statements to the end of May, because we're still in June. There's no final, financials for the month of June. So they want from January to the end of May. That means that some of you, if you're operational and you haven't been doing a great job maintaining your financial statements, that's going to be problematic. You want to get an accountant and get some help. We do have some great members of the association that are accountants that's familiar with the government industry. If you need a financial person to help you put together your financial statements, that will be very important. In fact, I was working with a company that's planning to get their 8A, and the SBA, needed to make sure that the financials were locked on, and so we had to. They're doing about $4.5 million a year, so they have a lot of paperwork that needed to be updated and projections and stuff like that. If you have loans, whether it's business loans or anything like that, you need to, in most situations, they will ask that you provide a copy of the agreement. If you're in certain industry, you need bonding. So construction, bonding is very relevant. For example, any project over 100,000, bonding is required for construction services at the federal market. Anything under 100,000 is not required, but it's at the discretion of the contracting officer. If you need help with bonding, again, reach out to us. We'll help you navigate that process. Recent contracts with any primes agencies, the 8A program, they will ask for that. Most of the certification program, they will not ask for any recent agreements or contracts that you have with agency primes or customers. But in the 8A program, they will ask for a few of these here. Court records of any type of situation that may deem you to be a person that lacked good character. This has excluded certain companies I know from being in the 8A program. And we talk about the felony. The felony situation falls under the lack of good character here. So if you have some situation you feel like, you know what, this situation may be problematic for me, let's talk about it offline. Make sure that you can overcome some of these things here. If you are debarred, you have to get back on the good side of the government. You need your resume with your technical and business experience. You need your personal tax return, not only your business tax returns, but your personal tax return as well. 8A program, you have to be a citizen, so you have to show your passport or your citizenship certificate, which they call certificate of naturalization. You do need a short history of the business, and let me give you an example of what they short. It should be just one very short paragraph or two small paragraphs. Your business history goes like this. For most of you, is this here. I've been working in IT consulting for the last 10 years, and I decided that I want to start my own business because I wanted to be able to provide for my family better. So I started my business, 3 years ago. I got my first client. I was able to go get some insurance and get some more clients. Today, we are doing about, our first year, we only had 3 clients. Today, we have over 20 clients. We're looking to grow our business in the government market. It's just something very simple like that. It doesn't have to be, they want to, really what they're looking for to see if, did you really start the company? Because they don't want somebody else controlling your business. They also want to see if there is somebody else that can control your business, through affiliation or something like that. So history of the business, just very simple, no right or wrong, pretty much. Resumes of owners and board of directors and key management people. Now, this is an area that some of you have to pay close attention to, especially if you are a husband and wife team. I've worked with a situation with a company that he technically founded the company, but because they want to get it set up as an 8A and a women-owned business, they shifted ownership to her. but his ego was so big. They brought me in to help them navigate their, and create a capture plan, help them go win contracts. While we were working on the certification, his ego was so big that on paper, she's the CEO, but verbally, he keeps on telling people he's a CEO. And I said, that's not going to fly, because if you're telling people you're the CEO, what you're doing is you're lying to the government, and you can lose your 8A at some point in the future. Now, yes, you may have been the former CEO. It's okay. The rules permit for you to relinquish your title as CEO, appoint your wife as the new CEO. That's fine. That's all within the legal process of business ownership. But if you show it on paper, but you keep telling everybody that you're the CEO, that means technically you're still the CEO, and the paper is a lie, and the government can come back and shut down your 8A company. So he would not do that. And I said, if you're not willing to do that, then I can't help you anymore, because I don't want to be involved in this fraud to the government. Because my role is to help you stay in compliance, and if you're not in compliance, help you find a way to be in compliance, but not necessarily to knowingly let you break the rules, and come back and say, Abe, you were a consultant and you allowed this to happen. It's your fault, right? Okay, insurance or vehicles. If you are in the certain transportation or certain industry that has vehicles, you need to include your lease documents, and especially the DBE certification. They absolutely want a list of all your vehicles. Or if you're in construction and you have construction vehicles and equipment and so forth, they want that list. Insurance, if you have vehicles for work related, you need to have insurance. Outside of that, general liability, they normally don't ask in the certification process. I don't remember ever providing a general liability insurance document. The proof of capital, oh, this is a tricky one for some of you. Proof of capital means this, that when you started your business, you deposited, whether it's $50, $100, or $200 to open the company. It's that first deposit that is your proof of investment, proof of capital. So if you show that document there, that check, and you have to go to the bank, and the bank has to, if it's longer than I think most banks is 18 months or something like that. If it's outside 18 months, they have to really dig back into the history. So it may take a little bit more time. That's one way to do it. Or we've done it where we actually have done an affidavit of truth. So it's an affidavit speaking to, because they couldn't find their old, it was so long ago. Like if you start your business 10 years ago, and the banks have the banks have merged and sold and merged and sold. I don't think you will ever find that original check that you deposited. And the copy you have, you shredded a while back too. So the way you do is you do an affidavit of truth, and you just say, I swear, as truth through this affidavit that I started the business. I deposited $100 to open the bank account, but because it's over 10 years ago, the bank don't have the record, and I don't have the record anymore. And this is my sworn testimony that I didn't put in $100 to start my own business. Something like that is fine. All your employees, you need a list of that. You also need, sometimes they ask for your payroll list. So some situations they don't, but in some certificates they do. In some rare situation, they want the W-2s of all the key owners, key officers. Trust agreements, most of you don't have trust agreement. Only if you are sheltering your assets and you're using trust. But most small business I know are not at a place where a trust is needed. But if you do have it related to your business, you need to include that as well. Employee stock ownership plan, ESOPs. This is there's actually a new pilot program with the SBA that they're permitting employee-owned companies, so if you have an ESOP, where every single person that works in the company, or most everybody, owns a piece of the company. So if you're a small business and you have an ESOP set up, there is a special pilot program to help you get more contracts. I might do a class on that at some point in the future, but that's a brand new pilot program. I just found out about it about 2 weeks ago. If you have any management consulting agreements, you need to include that. And then any other agreements with key vendors, management companies that can exert control of your company, you need to include that. Service agreements. Service agreements is, with your, um, like you might have some key people who are independent contractors that would be considered service agreement. You might have some clients. You might have a vendor agreement. Any of those type of things. Like if you sell, the bulk of your revenue is through selling Microsoft products, that they might want to see that you have you include your agreement with Microsoft. I think they call it your, you start off as a silver, bronze, gold, and all this different type of tiers. So whatever that agreement is, include that. If you have any subsidiaries or affiliates, include that. Franchise agreement. I've never seen a franchise obtain 8A certification before. Although it is possible, I've just never seen it. If you do, I'm currently working with a company. They used to have a franchise, but they waited until they let go of the franchise before they, reset up as a small business and now they're planning to pursue the 8A certification. Union agreements. Georgia is not a union state. Some of you are in union states. And if you have union agreements between your company and the union, you need to include that. Again, what they're looking for is for where the union does not control your company. If you are a S Corp, C Corp, you need shareholders, you need all these different board meeting minutes and so forth. LLCs is not necessarily required to have meetings, but if they do ask for it, you can just always provide that as well. You must be full-time in business. Here's what that means. You can have a part-time job, but your part-time job cannot be during the day. That the term they use that in the normal operation of your industry. So if you're in an industry where you need to meet with people during the day to operate, or if you're a store and store hours are from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. at night, and you have a full-time job during those hours, then that would be, the SBA will consider that non-compliant to where you're full-time your business. You can work part-time, and that's fine. We could explain that. But if you're working full-time and another job, trying to get your 8A or EDWSB or SDWSB and HubZone, right? HubZone, women-owned 8A and SDWSB, you have to be full-time in your business, or you don't have to work 40 hours a week, but you have to not have another job that conflicts with you being able to be full-time in the business. Because I understand some of you are, starting off, and the only one that I think that WOSB, I think that's the only one that does not require you to be full-time, if I remember correctly. But all the other federal certification requires you to be full-time. You need a line of credit. This is mainly for 8A company. Was working with a company, they did not have a line of credit, and they got to the 8A process. The SBA said you need to have, because she was doing about $60,000, $70,000 in revenue, and the government says, if you win a contract, how are you going to get started in the project? So what I told her was, I said, hey, go to your Credit Karma account and get a credit card that you designate specifically for your business. And she went and got a Discover card for $3,000, and then they said, okay, they put into the ADA program because of that, credit card there. So lines of credit or credit cards or something like that will be important. Your personal financial statements. This one can be a little bit problematic. Let me pull it up and show it to you guys, because so you would come in here, you would check the box you're doing for women owned or you're doing for 8A. So you fill this out, but the part that is problematic is down here where it talks about your assets. I can't talk about everything, but I'm going to address a few key things that sometimes may be confusing for some of you. Cash on hands, that means it's liquid. If it's cash or if it's in a regular checking account, that's considered cash on hand. And if it's in retirement, that's not cash on hand because you can't touch it. Savings account, IRAs. The one area that people have is down here where it says personal properties. Go to section 5. Other assets, go to section 5. Personal property, when you come down to section 5, it just leaves it blank down here, right? So let me explain to you what they mean by personal property. The sofa that you own, that you sit on, that's considered personal property. The gold necklace, the jewelry, the ring, the diamond rings that you have, the ATV that's sitting in your backyard, you're using it for fun, the Sea-Doo that you're using, the boat that you have, anything that is not listed, that's up here with a loan or anything like that. So, but mainly it's clothing, jewelry, furniture. Those are the things that most people forget to include in here. And you don't have to list every single item. I have a ring that's worth $500. I have a necklace that's worth $10,000. Don't do that. Just put in personal property, personal effect, $15,000, and you're fine. And so you just summarize it for that purpose down here. The other thing on this document is this here. Your total assets, which says total down here, which says must equal total in assets column. So this here must equal to this here. If you're doing your assets and your liability columns and the numbers don't add up down here, then you did something wrong. So make sure that you do that appropriately. All right, so let's finish up here with a few more things to address. The key item, let's go into one key item, is what's called the 8A social disadvantage narrative. I'm going to give all of you guys who are here a template as bonus for coming to join us here. One of the biggest obstacles to getting 8A certification as of right now is your social disadvantage narrative. That is a major deal breaker. In fact, I've had people that decided, hey, I'm just going to do my own 8A application. Well, they get to what's called the SDN, right? The social disadvantage narrative, the SDN, and the SBA turns them down. SBA said your SDN your narrative does not meet the requirements. And then they just send it back and they give you some samples. But what you want to do is you want to actually get some help with it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up a template. But I'm just going to pull up a real example of a company. But what I do is I redacted the information, so it's anonymized for that purpose here. So let me zoom in so you guys can see. So this is the template. In fact, while I remember, I'm going to put it in here. I'm going to put 2 templates in here. I'm going to put this template. This is the general template. And then I'm going to put the other sample, in there as well. So let me put in the chat. Where to go? Chat is over here. And when you come join us live, you get all this free bonus, right? All these goodies here. And let me give you the other one too. So this is the other sample. Yeah, so let's go into the document and let's address a few things in here. So Susie Smith, or whoever your name is, a U.S. citizen, it could be African American, it could be Asian American, it could be Hispanic American, it could be, a Caucasian man, it could be a Caucasian woman. The what's called the presumed social disadvantage is gone now. That's why everybody has to write this now. So you don't have to be African American to get into the 8A program. You can be European American, you can be, Asian American. It doesn't matter. Everybody can get into the 8A program now. So if you heard that the 8A program is a minorities program, that's not the truth. And it has never been a minorities program. It's what's called a social economic disadvantage program. And if you can demonstrate that you are socially disadvantaged and economically disadvantaged, you qualify into the 8A program. But this is the new rule that was changed last July and August. So everybody have to submit a document similar to this. This is my template for you guys. So you have to assert whether it's race, or in fact, let me go to the other document is actually cleaner to train you guys on, because this one is a specific one. And so the other one is cleaner. So let's go to this one here. So you have to choose. So when you come down here, you have to choose whether you're basing this here on race, religious, or gender bias, right? So it could be any, it could be race, religion, right? Race, religion, ethnic origin, gender, sexual orientation, or disability. And they also include this here, right? And isolation from American society. What do they mean by that? I'll give you an example. Like if you are a company in the mountains of West Virginia, you're isolated from American society. If you have an IT company and you're isolated in the West Virginia mountains, or maybe the inner city, and you don't have transportation or whatever the situation, we can document that. I've never worked with anybody through the isolation clause. I work with pretty much most of these here, but I have not done work with anybody through isolation. So be interesting if this is your situation. Come and I will help you navigate your 8A process, because I want to experience work with the company to get their certification through isolation from American society. So these are you have to choose one. So once you choose one, then you have to choose the next. Because of religious discrimination, because of gender discrimination, it has restricted me from education, or has restricted me from employment, or has restricted me from business. So it has to be one of these here, and it has to be one of these three down here. And then you go in, you have to answer the question of when, answer the question of where, answer the question of who, answer the question of what, and then finally you have to answer the question of why. So, and then you sign it, or how. Last thing is how. So let's look at the example. So this is the tool, and then we'll wrap it up with talking about this example here. So in this example, March 2023, People's Hospital in Johnsonville, who offended you, right? Or who discriminate because of your gender, who discriminate against you because of your disability, or who was that person. Now, if you don't remember the person's name, what you want to do is instead of calling it Steve Shannon, you might want, because this is not a real person. I just made that up. So you put in here the John Doe. So you would use John Doe or Jane Doe. If it's a female, you use Jane Doe. If it's a male, you use John Doe. If you remember the title, put that. If you don't remember the title, that's fine. You can just say John Doe. because they may have happened 5 years ago, 10 years ago. You don't remember the person's name, but it really happened to you. So here's the example here. What happened? Zoom a little bit. And Vicky, your homework assignment this week is I want you to look through these example, and I want you to write your narrative so that we can actually review it so that you can get your 8A certification at some point in the future. So what happened? I submitted my bid proposal to perform financial planning and analysis for People's Hospital of Johnsonville to build a new data center. Peter Fields, the interviewer, told me that the committee indicated that I was the strongest candidate, and the final step before the offer was to meet with the CIO, Steve Shannon, whom whom I would be working closely with to develop the financial plan. After my interview with Steve Shannon, Peter called me about 2 weeks later to let me know they have filled the position. So in the what statement, you're just saying what happened. I interviewed for a position, everything looked good, and then 2 weeks later, they said I didn't get the job. Somebody else got the job. This by itself, there's no discrimination. This by itself, right? But we go to the why, right? An interview filled with racial comments and biases. My phone screening interview with Peter Fields went well, and he said that I was the strongest candidate. So he set me up with the final interview with Steve Shannon, the CIO of the company. I arrived at the meeting early and waited for the conference room. Steve abruptly stopped as he walked into the conference room, stared at me, and asked Peter, "You didn't tell me your interview was with a Black woman." As he sat, he began saying that the magnitude of this work cannot be done by a Black person, let alone a Black woman. He asked me to explain why I was an exception. As I began to walk him through a similar but complex project I had previously completed successfully, he cut me off and said, "Let me tell you something between you and I. You know why I don't work with Black women? I can't stand their attitudes and their loud mouths. Why do you guys do that?" Completely devastated, but putting on a brave face, I proceeded to walk him through the project that he had interrupted me with. He sat back and smiled, not uttering another word to me. When I was done, he walked out of the room. So we stated the first reason, the first why there's discrimination. The second, we said, I'm a professionally qualified, 20 years experience. I have an MBA in finance, over 20 years experience in financial management field, working in technology organization. Within my career, I achieved multiple executive positions due to my ability to successfully complete projects. The committee that reviewed all the bids has selected my bid as the best solution and price. So we qualify. And outside of that, it's probably, racial discrimination. The person selected was a white Caucasian male. Peter Fields called me about 2 weeks later after my in-person interview to let me know that they have filled the position. I inquired about the candidate selected, and I came to find out that it was a Caucasian male. I conclude that Steve Shannon didn't want to work with a Black woman. For these reasons, I did not receive the bid for the financial planning with Peoples due to racial bias. So that's really what you want to do. Now, I'm not going to, because of time, I'm not going to read through the rest of here. They want 2 incidents. So this is the first incident, right? And then let's talk about the how. Because my company was denied this opportunity, I lost over $2 million in additional revenue. The company selected to perform the project would also work on the new hospital project where the planning was beginning in 8 months. Being intimately involved in planning a large-scale hospital would have opened the door to countless projects nationwide. They want you to talk about how you were financially impacted, or what opportunities did you lose in the free market enterprise. And if you don't quantify in terms of a dollar amount, then it's hard for them to approve. They say, well, if there's no loss, yes, there may have been a injustice, but because there's no loss, then they don't consider it as a incident that will qualify you into the aid program. So read through the examples I gave you guys. And so at this time here, I'm going to see if Vicky has any questions or any comments, and then we're going to wrap up and take any final questions here. So we covered quite a bit. Vicky, what do you think about some of these requirements here?
It's a lot of requirement. That last assignment that you had put up, I actually did one already. So
Okay.
I'm not sure. I'll send it to Abe first and see if it is something that would be, I don't know, that could be shown.
Okay. Yeah. Let's review it offline because this is sensitive stuff. Now, this is what the SBA said. This document that you submit to the SBA will not be reviewed, will not be part of any public record. It goes into your file. They review it for qualification purposes, and it goes into your file, and no one else will ever look at it unless it's the SBA maybe doing a review or something like that. But it's not public record. No one can do a FOIA request uh, for this document here. That's what they said. So I'm only repeating what they said. I can't vouch for the SBA, but I will say what they said. So uh, and then the people, they're not going to call the people. They're not going to say, hey, Mr. John Smith, Vicky said you did this here. Can you validate that for us? They don't do that. You write the statement, they review the statement to see if it meets the requirement. And if it's yes, you're in the 8A program. If it's no, they will say this does not meet the requirement. And these are some reasons. And if you can readjust it, great. If you can't readjust it, then you just have to, they won't, you can't get to a program. Okay. Any questions from anybody else? Vicky, you have any final questions before we wrap up?
No, I don't.
Okay. So we got lots of, we covered, a lot of qualifications for all of you who are watching and you're considering going after some certifications. Need help, let us know. We're here to help you. Vicky, I know you've started with one certification. You got many, many more certifications to go after. Before you submit any more certification package, check with me. So let's review it first and to make sure that you're in the best place to get granted these certificates. With that said, happy Juneteenth to everybody. Thanks for joining us live here. It's been fun having all of you here. Thank you for spending your Juneteenth with us. Remember, you're one contract away from your dream house, from your vacation, from the car that you want. You're one contract away, so don't stop. Keep going. You will get to your goals. And we will see you next week, same time, 11:30 a.m. Eastern, and for another episode of Win Government Contracts in our coaching session here with Vicky. Take care, everybody. Have a good one.